I'm Chief Meteorologist Paul Delgado, analyzing a lot of new data coming in tonight with Hurricane Milton. New recon data, new track data will update the impacts to us, including storm surge and some big-time wind threats across our inland counties. All that's coming up tonight at 10.
You're watching Fox 13, and the 10 o'clock news starts now.
Please prepare quickly and get out of the city.
Don't stay here. Don't call us. We're not going to be able to help you.
This is a storm that not to be played with. It's a storm that is going to be unprecedented.
This is serious. There is no room for waiting. You must take action now.
Good evening and welcome tonight as Tampa Bay prepares for Hurricane Milton. I'm Mark Wilson.
And I'm Allie Corey. Of course, the story all day has been preparing and evacuating ahead of Milton, making sure your plan is in place, important documents are somewhere safe, and that your family will be away from water.
That's the key. We want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Paul Delgado, watching this closely for us. Paul, what do you think? What are we looking at tonight?
Well, I've been watching the storm all evening and kind of babysit it, if you will. One thing we've noticed, just kind of based on some of the recon data and what we're seeing just from the satellite, is that it's undergoing what's called an eye wall replacement cycle, and that means there's a bigger eye wall that kind of takes over and the inner eye wall collapses, and usually that leads to a spell of weakening because the eye wall becomes larger, and it's kind of like a figure skater who's spinning and kind of spreads their hands and they start spinning slower. So there'll be some weakening. Maybe it's reached peak intensity, but the next day or so it remains over very warm water and light shear, so it stays a powerful hurricane. And then as it begins to move east-northeast and starts getting picked up by a trough, and if you're watching at home and you're wondering, why is the storm going kind of in the wrong direction? Don't storms go this way towards Texas? Well, in October especially, we start feeling the effects of the upcoming change of seasons, getting to winter, and troughs begin to get into the northern Gulf of Mexico. So this pretty much rides along a trough. That is why we're always concerned about tropical storms making landfall on our west coast in October. Big 1921 storm, the 1848 hurricane. They all come in from the west because the troughs show up in the Gulf. So this kind of rides along the base of the trough and begins accelerating our way during the day during the day tomorrow, and more so as you move into early on Wednesday. Now, the environment in the Gulf, very warm water, low shear, kind of this water kind of untouched from Helene, but as the storm approaches our state, thankfully, it begins to feel the effects of the trough, the upper level winds, the shear, and also some dry air. So there should be some considerable weakening. The problem with that is, as the storm weakens, the wind field begins to expand. So it's kind of a half good, half bad thing. And because it's approaching our state kind of at a perpendicular angle, the storm surge threat is not going to diminish at all because the storm weakens. And I talked about this at 6 o'clock. It's like when Katrina moved across the Gulf as a Cat 5, made that big turn up towards Louisiana and Mississippi. It weakened considerably from a Cat 5 to a Cat 3 at landfall. However, the storm surge ended up being basically at Cat 5 level because just the water it takes doesn't diminish because the wind speeds dropped a little bit. The models still showing pretty good agreement. I was looking at some of the hurricane models themselves, which are not on this plot, and they're all kind of around Tampa Bay, some north, some south. So tomorrow, we're hoping to get a better idea of the landfall point, because that's really critical when it comes to where the storm surge is going to be. It'll be higher from the point of landfall south, and obviously less surge point of landfall north. Here's the shear. This is Wednesday at 8 p.m., and it's pretty considerable as the storm approaches our west coast. In purple is a potential. I don't think everybody is going to get 110 mile an hour winds, because the strongest winds are going to be with that core, the circle around the eye, about 60 miles in diameter. That'll move inland. That's where the strongest winds will be. And then outside that core, the winds will be a little bit less. The storm surge numbers, this is kind of broad brush, because the Hurricane Center still doesn't know exactly where landfall is going to be. Not everybody will have numbers like this. It'll be from the point of landfall south with the 10 to 15, and then north, wherever it is, it's here, here, here. North of that, the winds go this way out to the Gulf, so the storm surge numbers dramatically lower. But Hurricane Center can't post that now because we don't know exactly where the storm's going to make landfall. So we'll talk more about that and throughout the show and about how you're going to be prepping and impacts coming up at about 10:20. I'll see you then.
All right, Paul, thank you. By now, you need to know your evacuation zone. That will determine if you can stay or if you need to leave your home. In Hillsborough County, zones A and B, along with all mobile and manufactured homes, need to evacuate. In Pinellas County, everyone in zones A, B, and C need to evacuate. Everyone in zones A, B, and C in Manatee County also need to leave, along with everyone in zones A and B in Sarasota County. Pasco County issued a mandatory evacuation for everyone in A, B, C, and low-lying or flood-prone areas, while Hernando County is evacuating all areas west of US 19. That includes zones A, B, and C. And as thousands of people leave their homes behind ahead of the storm, FEMA officials are in town preparing for what could be a potentially devastating situation. Fox 13's Genevieve Curtis joins us live from St. Pete City Hall tonight. And Genevieve, we know you spoke with FEMA officials, so what did they tell you tonight?
Yeah, Allie, well, having the FEMA administrator here in St. Petersburg really underscores just how devastating Milton is expected to be for this city and for this region. This is the first time a FEMA administrator has been to St. Petersburg ahead of a hurricane. And I think it was summed up best today by the city's emergency is our worst case scenario. Yes, so certainly her presence here today underscoring the importance of evacuating and heeding those warnings. And I want to call your attention to this message that police officers have been passing out to businesses in evacuation zones A, B, and C. This is requiring that those businesses close by 5 a.m. tomorrow. And now the police department tells me they've gone and given all of these to businesses in those evacuation zones. And if they stay open, the first time it's going to be a warning. The second time it's going to be a fine. And the third time the owner will be arrested for operating a business in one of these evacuation zones when it is time to get out. And that's going to happen starting at 5 a.m. tomorrow. So certainly a lot of work being done to make sure that we protect lives here in St. Petersburg and across the region. Mark.
All right, Genevieve Curtis, live for us in St. Pete. Genevieve, thanks much. I think that's a first to have the FEMA administrator here for sure. Well, as folks who are ordered to evacuate get out of town, they're faced with a lot of traffic. It was gridlocked this evening. It is a little bit better tonight. I know firsthand experience. The bridges are moving. That's good news. A lot of other people were trying to do the same thing, especially around rush hour tonight. This is what things look like right now on I-275. Again, traffic is moving. Folks are getting out of Pinellas County. You don't want to wait until rush hour tomorrow because we expect it to be much worse. Look at this. This is a live look on Interstate 4 headed east. Again, the lights are moving, cars are moving. That's all great news. Same situation as a lot of people are headed out of town for safer ground from the water. Let's bring in Fox 13's Evan Moon, who's live on this one for us in Tampa tonight. Hi there, Evan. It doesn't matter where you go around here. Apparently the lines we're finding everywhere are long, aren't they?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, and I'm standing here at a gas station on Kennedy Boulevard here in Tampa, and I can tell you that every gas station we passed on this road had long lines, had crowds. We were talking to people who were waiting half an hour for gas, and now later in the evening, you can see behind me a lot of gas stations are shut down. They're taped off, but this means that people are taking this seriously. Now, FDOT is allowing use of the emergency shoulder lanes in some parts of the state, and Governor Ron DeSantis has suspended interstate toll fees surrounding Tampa and Orlando metro areas. That's encouraging people to leave. Now, again, the roads are crowded. Gas stations are crowded. This just shows that people are getting out of town. They're heeding evacuation warnings, which is a good thing while they have time to do so. And it's an important reminder that the Skyway Bridge will close with 45-mile-per-hour winds, and other bridges around Tampa Bay close when there's hazardous conditions. So now is the time to get out while we still have a few hours here. In Tampa, Evan Moon, Fox 13 News.
Evan, thanks much. And as Bay Area residents do make their final preparations, there's a major concern now for all that remaining debris.
Yeah, there's really a lot of it still across neighborhoods all along the Gulf Coast from Hurricane Helene. And with just about everyone concerned, the debris could pose a dangerous threat as projectiles during the storm. Our Jennifer Vaglis joins us in the newsroom tonight. And Jennifer, we know that there is a lot to clean up, and we have seen ramped up efforts for sure, but it can't all be cleared, right?
Yeah, Allie, unfortunately, the city tells me city crews, contractors, and even volunteers are working around the clock to pick up what they can, but because time is certainly not on our side, yard debris will have to stay. Yeah, those efforts are certainly ramped up at this time. Now, the city has also placed large blue dumpster containers in 6 locations for residents in the hardest hit areas across the city to discard their debris. Reporting in the newsroom, Jennifer Vaglis, Fox 13 News.
All right, Jennifer, thanks much. You know, stay with us here on Fox 13. We still have a lot to share with you tonight.
Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot more on track, of course, storm preparations, and the very latest from Paul and Nash as they have new updates coming in as we speak. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's a pink army on a mission. There are Making Strides walks all across the Bay Area. Just scan the QR code to get information on the one nearest you.
In a place we're proud to call home, this is Fox 13 country.
It's going to be a good sense of the distance between Milton, which is now paralleling the northern coast of the Yucatan. It's about 650 miles to the southwest of Tampa. There's a trough up here, and essentially it's going to get picked up by that trough and kind of ride along it. And once the storm starts moving northeast, we'll get higher confidence on the exact landfall point. There's some weakening right now because it's undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle, but it will stay as a strong hurricane, gradually weakening, and maybe that weakening could accelerate a little bit as it approaches our west coast because of some shear and some dry air getting kind of involved with the overall circulation of the storm. There it is, 650 miles southwest of Tampa, top winds 180. Moving east at 10. We get a new advisory coming in about 40 minutes. Not expecting any significant track changes, but we'll have it as quickly on there as we can. And then here you go, kind of coming around the base of the trough. Hurricane warnings are up along our west coast. A completely different setup than both Helene and Debbie, which paralleled our west coast. This one is going to bring with it a swath of wind inland. So after a couple of big storm events where inland counties didn't get much, you're going to get some wind. And the winds could certainly gust well over hurricane force and cause some power outages, trees down, and all the way to Orlando and all the way to the East Coast has a hurricane warning in effect. Dry air, watch it in brown, trying to sneak into the circulation from the south here. See that kind of moving in? That's the kind of subtleties we will watch for when it comes for weakening as the storm approaches our coast. And also, there'll be some stronger upper-level winds. Hurricanes do not like strong upper-level winds. They kind of disrupt the efficiency of the heat machine, if you will, and the storm begins to weaken. So we hope that gets into play as the storm approaches our west coast. As far as surges go, got a warning up the entire west coast. That makes sense. And as far as numbers go, storm surge heights, that's really going to be dependent on where the storm makes landfall. So for now, the Hurricane Center in these numbers they put out, it's kind of broad brushed. When we get an idea of the landfall point, then we'll specifically say south of this line, we're expecting 10 to 15. Got 10 to 15 here and into Tampa Bay, which is one of our highest surges on record. The highest surge ever for Tampa Bay was 15 feet back in the 1848 hurricane. That's what we're looking at. But if the storm makes landfall south of this, that won't verify because the winds will blow the water out of the bay. We'll be watching that very closely during the day tomorrow. Nash.
Ranking the things that we're watching here in terms of impacts. We go from storm surge kind of at the top of the list for the impacts that we'll receive locally. That'll be kind of at the top of the line, perhaps potentially historic as this is making landfall. Additionally, we're watching for hurricane force winds, and that's going to be closer to the storm center. With Helene, the center of the system stayed many miles off our shoreline, so we didn't really see the brunt of those hurricane force winds and gusts. A few of them were felt along the immediate coast, extending far away from the center, but I want to show you the latest warning warnings. Just to give you an idea of the hurricane warnings that we currently have in place, it engulfs the entirety of our viewing area, that red shaded region there extending many counties inland as well. And that has everything to do with the approach of this storm. Rather than working up and down the coast like we saw with Debbie and Helene, it's going to be taking a right angle, which is going to drive that storm surge onshore on the right side of the system. But also because of the speed of this, it's going to drive those hurricane force winds perhaps farther inland into spots that didn't see the strong winds the last time. Those warnings are issued because we're now 36 hours in advance of when we're expecting hurricane conditions and those strong winds to potentially occur. The reason we saw those watches transition to warnings today had everything to do with the timing, as we're just getting closer to when those strong winds will come onshore. That big yellow circle there on your screen here, the big radius of winds that we're expecting that'll be past tropical storm force, that is 40 miles or greater. And this is what Paul and I were concerned about when it comes to power outages. We think because the ground is very saturated from the rain showers we had leading up to this system, that the widespread tropical storm force winds that are eventually going to push onshore onto the peninsula will only add to the potential for power outages and perhaps several trees to come down as this swoops through. This is the general wind estimate here put out by the National Hurricane Center. Paul also highlighted that this is very broad brush, and I agree. Not everybody is going to see these very strong winds. It has everything again to do with the track of this storm, which is still up in the air as of this hour. The hurricane forecast cone over 100 miles wide with possible solutions, but it just puts in perspective that strong winds will be felt farther inland. The red shaded region there somewhere between 74 to 110 miles per hour. Back toward the coastline, perhaps even stronger than that, as we're expecting the possibility for, again, hurricane force and Category 3 major hurricane force winds along the shoreline as this pushes onshore. Additionally, flooding is a concern. We have flood watches in effect through Thursday morning. That is for the potential for 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. Isolated spots could see up to 15 inches of rain. That's what the National Weather Service's wording said. And again, that's going to be felt closer to where this storm eventually makes landfall. Your 7-day forecast highlighting that once we get into Thursday afternoon and evening, the conditions will improve. We just have to get through then. Friday, Saturday into Sunday, those clouds begin to ease up and we finally get the rain out of the forecast. We'll have more updates on Milton, its strength and its track coming up right after this.
Tomorrow morning, Good Day starts early with all the information you need to prepare for Milton.
Our crews are in the field to give you up-to-the-minute details on evacuation, supplies, fuel, and shelter.
And Dave Osterberg with the Fox 13 weather team will keep you advised of the latest forecast track of this dangerous storm. We're with you every step of the way on Good Day tomorrow.
So Manatee County has expanded their evacuation alert to now include A, B, and C. So that's also including all mobile and manufactured homes.
And that's critical here. Manatee and Sarasota County have seen some of the worst damage from Debbie. Remember all that flooding? And that was a lot just from the rain. And then Helene, of course, which was mostly surge. So there's been so much water there. We can't handle much more. But it appears more is coming. Not sure how much yet. We'll know soon. Crews are working around the clock to try to collect as much debris as they can. And they're going to do this, they tell us, until it's no longer safe. Holmes Beach Police will also leave the island tomorrow night, which means if you're not leaving, there's nobody there to help you. We cannot say that enough. And it happens. But you're warned. Again, in Sarasota County, linemen are staging at Roberts Arena to restore power when it is safe to do so.
So if you do lose power during the storm, and there is a good chance that a lot of you will, remember that there are several local radio stations carrying our newscasts. You can listen to our hurricane coverage on 102.5 The Bone, 97X, and 101.5 The Vibe. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, well, welcome back as we continue to track Hurricane Milton. I almost said Helene there because we were saying that on last week. A lot of people evacuating. You know, I think right now actually is probably the best the roads have looked all day.
I was surprised we showed the cameras.
Cars are moving because people are leaving.
But I think it's because you've got, it's a 2-day stretch, and I think people kind of spread it out. Right. So it's not as though all of a sudden we're saying you got to go now.
Most people probably don't like to drive at night, but if you're wondering when to go, tonight would be a great time to go.
Yeah, because the roads are open.
The roads are
moving.
open.
The cars are moving.
Yeah.
You know, I think as we talked about this during the commercial break, as bad as Helene was, and there's nothing good to say about Helene, it did really bring to the forefront the dangers of storm surge. And everyone understands now why we get so concerned about the water. And this is a case where there's probably going to be higher water than there was during Helene. So if you're on the edge about, do I evacuate, I want to stay, evacuate, and then you can call me and complain and say, oh, you told me to evacuate, it was fine. I'm more than happy to take the email. But always better to be safe and then get through it and then work on it from then.
Let me ask you this, and I know this is probably the $64,000 question, but at what point tomorrow do you think we really will start to see that cone narrow?
I think throughout the day, and it does. Don't forget, it does narrow on its own.
Right.
Remember, no one draws the cone. Right. It's based on the statistics of as you get closer, the cone gets smaller because based on error by the forecasting, it's 5 years of forecasting error determines the cone by the Hurricane Center. So there's no drawing. It does it itself. And as we get to tomorrow, the cone will shrink because we get closer to the event. And I think by this time tomorrow, we'll have a pretty good sense of where in the Bay Area this storm will make landfall, which is critical for storm surge purposes, and also who will see the strongest winds.
And in terms of some impacts, I know a couple of people have been messaging us, I know many to you as well. Roughly Wednesday afternoon, we're thinking the first
Wednesday afternoon. It looks like Wednesday evening and into Thursday is going to be kind of tough. The storm should move along. We'll start displaying tide information because on this cycle, Wednesday into Thursday, it's a 2-tide cycle. Most times it's 4. 2 highs, 2 lows. This is going to be 1 high, 1 low, and a little bit higher than they were and lower than they were during Helene.
Okay. I know you were saying too, Paul, for people who live inland, and you know, this storm is tracking to go right across our state. I've heard a lot of people today say that they're scared. You know, their home is built well. It's a concrete block home like many Florida homes are. But you know, the eye of the hurricane coming over their home. Should I stay or should I go?
Yeah, I think it's a personal decision. I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone what to do. I think you said it correctly. If you're in a well-built home and you're inland, I think you're okay to stay. I mean, and every person has their own personal thing. If you are in a home and you look outside and you say, honey, you know those pine trees, one almost fell that last storm we had. Maybe we should go to Joe's house. You know, down the street because he lives in a house with no trees around. It's that kind of thinking and decision making. But inland, you're going to be okay as long as your home is well built. Roofs don't typically fly off a home, you know, during a Cat 1 or a Cat 2 storm.
Irma learned some valuable information. Just remember to share, we were talking about those trees, and this is going to be something for everybody to think about too. When I flew around with Vice President Pence following Irma, when it came right into Marco Island, remember? It was about a Category 3, a little bit more than Category 3, and I remember staring at all those homes. All the well-built homes did fine. A direct Category 3, they did fine. Most of the damage were those big canopy oak trees that weren't that well trimmed that had fallen on the houses. So to your point, if you know you have some large oak trees around, if they're not well trimmed, they could become an umbrella. If you're
a homeowner and you've been there, well, you kind of know your house. I know my house. I know that shingle area up there is a little weak,
and that tree's a little big.
So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You know your little deal and make your decisions on your deal. If that makes sense.
Well, we appreciate everything that you guys are doing in the Weather Center because we know you're working hard.
No doubt.
We'll see you in a little bit.
Thanks, Paul.
We got the 11 o'clock update, so all right. Thank you. Remember to download the Fox Local app for the latest developments on Hurricane Milton. We do stream a lot of extra coverage. Paul and Nash just did an 8 o'clock stream for us tonight. So you'll be able to find every advisory there, the latest forecast, and more information regarding this storm. And as we have been hearing from officials and really telling everyone all day, the time to evacuate is now. Be sure to gather all of your important documents, be prepared, and find a safe place to go if you are in an evacuation zone before really it's too late. Here's what officials in the city of Tampa had to say. Listen.
This is, I think as Mayor Jane would tell you, for those of us who have grown up here across the Tampa Bay area, this is the most serious storm we have ever seen. Very rarely do they come in directly from the west. And while our neighborhoods were swamped from storm surge, Helene didn't bring much rain. It didn't bring a lot of wind, but now with this storm, it looks like we're going to have the surge with the wind and the rain all at the same time. So this is very serious. If you do not have your evacuation plan now, you need to make that plan. If you're in that zone A, you need to be departing now.
All right, local power companies also preparing for power outages. TECO is expecting widespread extended outages. We're told about 600 line workers are already prepared to work around the clock, already in the area to restore power as quickly as possible. And then there's Duke Energy, also ready for outages. They've mobilized about 10,000 resources while preparing for more than 1 million outages from this storm. Homeowners who do evacuate, remember, are urged to turn off the power before leaving. We just want to remind everybody tonight as well, by now you really need to know your evacuation zone. If you don't, go to fox13news.com, click on that image. You'll see that right there. You can find your county to look up by your zone. So on our website, you can also find a lot more crucial information about each county ahead of the storm. And remember, we've had, for most of our viewing area, already evacuations for A, B, and C.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. We still have a little bit of time tomorrow, but don't want to be checking that on Wednesday afternoon, because by then, it's going to be too late. All right, we still have much more to get to tonight here on Fox 13 as we prepare for this, what appears to be a monster hurricane.
It's still ahead. If you haven't already done so, time is running out to get those sandbags before the storm and taking shelter in Pasco County. What you need to know about where to go if you are in an evacuation zone. Families not in an evacuation zone may be sticking the storm out at home. The useful tips to get you through and after the storm tonight at 11.
It's a place where the Bay Area's boys of summer trust this man to take care of their field of dreams, where craftsmen cut grass as fine as carpet and dig holes picture perfect for putting. And another man mixes lightning and ice together for an electrifying experience. These are just some of the people and places that make Tampa Bay one of the best sports towns in America. This is Fox 13 Country.
Well, welcome back. Hurricane Milton will have more impact than Hurricane Helene, Debbie, or Idalia, with our inland counties expected to feel the effects as well. Polk County's Emergency Management Operations Center was fully activated on Sunday. Officials are preparing for rain that will cause flooding, strong winds that can damage homes and power lines, and downed trees that can block roads and damage homes. There are no evacuation zones in Polk County, and while there are emergency shelters, officials say they should be a last resort.
If you're in a mobile home, a manufactured home, an RV, or a camper, some type of structure that may not survive high winds, plan A should be a friend, a family member, somebody from church that does not have to leave their home and make a plan to stay with them.
Well, shelters across the county, they will open up tomorrow, and they will have a capacity to house 38,000 people if need be. And there are pet-friendly and special needs shelters as well. Well, if you haven't done so already and you need to, time is really running out for you to get those sandbags to secure your home. In Polk County, sandbagging sites will open on Tuesday from 8 a.m. until noon. And in Tampa, the Himes Avenue Complex and the Al Barnes Park sites will open tomorrow from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. Self-serve sandbags will be offered to those in Sarasota from 8 a.m. until noon. For a full list of these sandbag locations, you can visit fox13news.com.
So as folks in zones A, B, and C in Pasco County evacuate, it's really important to know that if you need somewhere to go and you don't have a place to go, the shelters are open. That's what they're there for, and they are accepting pets. Remember, that was an issue many years ago, but they've changed all that. So take your pet, go to the shelter. Go Pasco is even offering free bus rides to those who need to get to a shelter. Pasco County emergency officials are warning people of the catastrophic storm surge and the heavy winds, of course. A big issue we're seeing across the Bay Area, though, is the massive piles of debris outside many of our homes. If you want to drop off debris yourself, the West Pasco Resource Recovery Center on Hayes Road is open.
If you have debris that's out in front of your house that has not been picked up as of yet, I encourage you that anything that can become a flying missile, wood, 2x4s, metal, please try to store them back within your house. And any large objects that can float, dressers, refrigerators, try to get those secured as well.
Yeah, county debris haulers have been working around the clock there in Pasco to clean things up. But the big message from officials is, for people, your priority is to get out now.
Well, we have a heads up to those in Hernando County. Additional shelters have opened for those who need to evacuate. They are located at Challenger K-8 in Spring Hill, West Hernando Middle School, and the Enrichment Center in Brooksville. Clearwater Beach is preparing ahead of Hurricane Milton. Police officers have a checkpoint set up at the barrier islands, warning drivers that they are under a mandatory evacuation. They are restricting the island only to residents, business owners, rideshare drivers, and debris haulers.
So just down the coast in Bel Air Beach, families are nervous about what's to come.
They are hoping for the best, of course, after Hurricane Helene brought devastating surge to their community. Many of them say that they had 4 to 5 feet of water come into their home from Hurricane Helene. They are learning from their experience with that storm, and they are getting out of here and going somewhere safe.
I'm still really scared and have nightmares from the last storm, so I really think we're going to evacuate. I'm really young, so I keep talking to my older neighbors, and they keep saying that they have never seen anything like this in 30 years, 40 years, 50 years.
This is considered what could be Florida's biggest evacuation in 7 years. Hurricane Irma was really the last. Well, we still have a lot more to get to tonight.
Yeah, after this commercial break, our own Nash Rhodes is going to answer some questions regarding the storm and storm prep, and he's also already gotten the 11 o'clock update. He's going to be here to digest it with us in mere seconds, so don't move.
The election is almost a month away, and the campaigns are making multiple stops in every swing state, hoping to convince the last few undecided or uncommitted voters to go their way. Stay informed. Follow us at battlegroundnews.com, subscribe to our newsletter, and watch us right here each weeknight.
Battleground, tonight at midnight on Fox 13. For coverage of Milton, stay tuned to all Fox 13 newscasts and count on the experience of Paul Delgado and his team of meteorologists. You can also get storm information anytime on fox13news.com and on Fox Local on your streaming TVs. If you lose power, watch live Fox 13 storm coverage on your phone by using the Fox Local mobile app. Download it now.
And we're checking in live here from satellite infrared imagery taken from space of Milton. Milton earlier today going through a historic strengthening process, rapidly intensifying into a Category 5 hurricane and then some. The latest advisory, though, as you can even tell, the center of this not looking as organized and put together as what we saw earlier. The hurricane hunters finding evidence to support that this is weakened potentially just a little bit. 914 for that pressure level. Still a very strong, powerful Category 5 hurricane, but going through an eyewall replacement cycle right now, meaning that it's just trying to reorganize just a little bit. It's going to be moving due east-northeast over its next track and likely has just peaked in terms of intensity. I was just talking to Paul about this. It looks like everything came together for it there for a moment, brought those pressure levels down into the upper 800s, and now that the pressure is starting to rise and this system is trying to reform that eye, it's going to be tough for it to strengthen back to where it was just moments ago. Either way, here's the latest forecast cone, still maintaining Category 5 status into Tuesday. This is 8 p.m. here with 160 miles per hour, down to 145 heading into Wednesday. The forecast cone still centered right over Tampa with winds at 125 miles per hour by 8 p.m. there on Wednesday evening. Continuing inland as a hurricane. Notice here, emerging from the east side of the state as a Category 1 hurricane. No surprise, those hurricane watches are in effect for even the East Coast as warnings have been issued for our neck of the woods. I really want to point out here and stress that this forecast cone is not for impacts. This is where the center of this system could potentially travel. That means that if this were to be on the north side of this cone, way up here where we see those hurricane warnings start, that would still be a valid forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Additionally, farther to the south, that would be a very real possibility. There's over 100 miles here of possibilities with where this could make landfall, and that means everything in terms of the storm surge potential that we're tracking with this storm. More on that in just a moment, but look at the Fox model here. I want to show you something interesting I've seen. This isn't just the Fox model, but even with a few others, they slow this down just a pinch in terms of the timing and arrival. This has it making landfall potentially late into Wednesday and potentially early Thursday morning, right around 2-3 a.m. as the timing for when this pushes on shore is still up in the air. Either way, storm surge warnings are in effect, and you see the forecast there on your screen, which is completely subjective to where this pushes on shore. We'll be looking for where the center of this system makes its way on land, and areas south can expect to potentially see the brunt of these storm surge forecasts. Guys?
Alrighty, Nash, thanks much. Next here at 10, it's a stressful time for everyone right now. It's important, though, we just take a moment to breathe, how you can manage the pre-storm anxiety when we return.
I'm Charlie Belcher. I grew up and went to school in the Hudson and Bayonet Point area. I know stories that affect the Bay Area are important to you. So count on us to keep you informed about everything happening in Fox 13 country.
Well, as we face the potential impact of another major hurricane, a lot of people find themselves dealing with a lot of storm anxiety right now, and it's critical right now. So important to take a deep moment to breathe and remember to be kind to everyone around us.
While you're preparing, put on some music. Maybe you've got an audiobook that just makes you laugh. Do whatever you can do to help to reduce your stress level, because when your stress level goes down, you're going to be able to cope with more issues. You're going to be able to, deal with the lines and the waiting if you are in a better emotional state, and give yourself permission to be there. We're all in this together. And so anytime that you can make somebody else smile, anytime that you can bend down and do something to help somebody else, it's going to make you feel better too. Because right now, everybody, that's all you can control is how you're feeling and how you're responding.
Yeah, the CEO of the Crisis Center, that's Claire Reynolds, also has some advice for parents. Don't keep kids in the dark. Kids these days are pretty smart. They see what's going on around us. Be upfront, let them know the goal of this prep work is to keep our family safe, and they may even want to pitch in to help. Those at the Crisis Center will be at their facility throughout the hurricane, providing help to anybody who needs it. They're also available 24/7 just by dialing 211. If you're in crisis or if you have any thoughts of suicide, please dial 988. Much more to come here still tonight here at 10 o'clock, the very latest school and transit closures right after this.
I knew this job was going to be fun. It's been a non-stop adventure. How cool is that? And I've learned things about Florida that I never could have imagined.
My pictures draw you in.
Plus, I have worked with some of the greatest people in the TV business.
30 years in the business. I've been a fan all my life, so it's good to have you here.
I've been around all your life.
For 30 years, it has been and continues to be an honor to help the people of Tampa Bay make their day a good day.
Need an idea for dinner tonight? How about stuffed peppers, scallops, snapper, grouper, steak or steak tips, pasta, lasagna rotolo, fruits, veggies, chips, sushi, duck, falafels, crab cakes, adobo, gnocchi, pork tenderloin, croquettes, or even lobster mac and cheese. Get great ideas for dinner from the Bay Area's best chefs on Dinner Diaz.
Weekdays at 1 on Fox 13 or watch anytime on Fox Local. Just download the app on your streaming TV.
If you're looking for something fun to do, the Tampa Bay area is the perfect place to play. There are miles of trails to explore. You can set sail, canoe, kayak, take flight with the help of a kite, cast a line and catch some dinner, get in the swing of things on the links or the courts, or sink your toes in the sand on some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. It's great exercise for your body and your mind. Just don't forget the sunscreen. The perfect place to enjoy the great outdoors is right here in Fox 13 country.
Fox 13 is proud to be the official weather partner for the Tampa Bay Rays. Whether the Rays are playing at home or on the road, knowing the Sky Tower radar forecast will always be a hit.